welcome back to another episode of the Prometheus Podcast. We're shooting episode 5 today. I'm joined with Jackson, Hendry, and Luke. How's your week been, boys?
Yeah, pretty intense actually. A lot going on at work at the moment. Trying to get a lot of extra things done as well. Just trying to make the time and really, seeing how I go, trying to find my feet and getting through things. So
pretty good. Yeah, it's been a really busy week for me as well. Work's been piling up since I'm getting towards the end of the contract for me. Kind of changed my habits a little bit in terms of going to the gym a little earlier now in the morning. It's been pretty good. Been waking up like a lot more fresh and kind of like motivated to get the day started.
Nice. I'm actually still on call for work at the moment.
Oh,
I have my phone down here, but yeah, busy. It's, same deal though. But I do like that what you're saying about getting those early morning workouts in. So yeah, I'm big on that. Just getting some early morning exercise in, just so you actually do feel refreshing for the day. So that's a call out worth making, I reckon.
what about yourself?
Yeah, just had one of my exams this past week, so I reckon it went pretty well. Was able to walk out half an hour early, which is always good because the last 15 minutes you're not allowed to leave. So even if you're done, you have to sit there, and then they make you leave row by row. So you just be sitting there for ages. So it's always, every single exam you want to finish before that last 15 minutes. So that's always a bit of extra challenge on top of the already difficult exam. But yeah, I was pretty happy with how it went. And yeah, just now preparing for the next one next week. So all's good in the hood.
Lovely. Well, not sure about you guys, but one thing that I was thinking about all week. Just wanted to get a gauge with you guys of like kind of who your inspirations are, like who you all have in your mind. It might be from your years ago, from past idols or whatever it is. But I really wanted to get a gauge of like what type of people we're all like aspiring to be. Just want to like throw it out there. Just
It's a pretty good topic. I guess I'll start off. One, there's not really aspiring to be, but one inspiration of mine is an artist called Russ. I went to see him. He came to Melbourne like last year, June-ish. It was an upcoming artist back then. And the thing that I like about him is that he was always like, he's been doing it for like 12 years, 15 years, like just kind of not blowing up, kind of just being like 100 view plays or something, just like a little kind of artist. But the thing that kind of gives me inspiration from him is he was always able to stay motivated no matter what. Like some songs will flop or some songs won't go as well as what he thought it would go, but he was always back and he's recording, putting out music and all that. And like these days he's selling out Staples Center. He's like selling all arenas around the world these days, making selling 14,000 tickets a show and all that.
yeah. So what type of like work does he do? Like what type of, like you said he's an artist. Like what does he actually do?
So he's a hip hop / R&B artist, and it's crazy to see that like how if you can just come up just being like an average kind of person, but like being that like have that motivational drive behind you, and then like just putting in work every single day, and eventually it will pay off. And the thing that I like about him is that like he's always family orientated as well. So he goes tours around the world, but everywhere he goes, he brings his mum with him. So like he'll just like last time he came to Australia, he brought his mum. He went to Europe, took his mum, and it's just crazy how like he could just stay so humble and he's like purchased his mum like 2 houses now, his sister's cars, his brother's cars, houses and all that. Yeah. So yeah, it's pretty cool to kind of get like inspiration from like someone like that.
Yeah, well, one thing that just stuck out to me then, you were just saying how he'd been putting that work in for so many years, and now like you're just noticing it now. So I think a lot of people, when they see new upcoming artists, they look at that and they think that they've just like blown up from one track or something, and then now they're starting to get recognized, but they actually have no idea like that one artist or rapper or whoever it is, they've been producing music for the last 20 years. And the ups and the downs, and like you're saying, some flop, some succeed, but it's always, I think definitely because, yeah, music, like if you have a top charting song, like everyone automatically then jumps on the bandwagon. I know an artist that I followed for many years, NF, he recently had a song, Let You Down, and it was on the radio here in Australia. And other than that, it was normally just like, he's YouTube in America. But like, people hear that song and then they then just assume, that was his breakout song. But it's been a following since years and years and years, and they put so much hours and so many years just into being able to make that big break. It's not as simple as just releasing one great song. Like, it's a consistent craft that you have to do for 10, 20 years.
It just goes to show, like you have to put in the work for you to like reap the benefits later on in life. Like, not everything happens like straight away, and you have to like slowly chip away at the workload for you to then kind of find that success. And like you said, like people just see it as like one breakout song, like that was it. Like they don't see the catalog behind or something like that.
Yeah, and that's probably like a massive talking point like these days as well. Is that people are trying to get into an industry, or they're trying to be this breakout star, and they think they need that one track, or they need that one piece of of content to break out. But it's such a misconception that everyone sits there and they're trying to break into this industry, and then they think, I've been doing this for 6 months, and why don't I have all this following? Why don't I have all this traction? And they don't realize that the people that they are following, the people that they inspire to be, have actually gone through years and years and years of not being followed, of not being heard of, and now they're just blowing up.
Yeah.
So I reckon, like that's probably something along those lines. That's like, something that if you understand it and how you're saying it, it's like a really good, like inspiration, like to follow.
Yeah, for sure.
What about yourself, Jackson?
Me, I'm not so much of in terms of inspiration, I'm not so much of a kind of celebrity inspiration or someone who's achieved so much as an inspiration. For me, it's more so the type of person. So for me, so basically in my family, my inspiration is my grandfather, right? So the things that he did for his family, the struggles that he put himself through so his family could basically live on and live happily. Doing those things, making the sacrifices. I think sacrifice is probably like my biggest motivator. I think if you've got someone that's willing to sacrifice a part of their life for yours, like hands down, they're like the best type of person you can be. So like having that inspiration on a personal level as opposed to a business level or a career level, I think that's really important as well. So in terms, for me it's my grandfather, but there's countless in terms of business opportunity, kind of that motivation, drive, whatnot. But for me, inspiration really comes down to the person you are. So that's mine.
Nice.
Well, sacrifice was an interesting one. So I think there's like two parts to it, like you said. So one is you sacrifice. If someone is sacrificing their time, their energy, or anything with that individual for you, you then have that accountability to be able to make good on that sacrifice. And then the other side to the coin is if then you sacrifice something, like say it's a birthday that you can't go to because for whatever reason if you're an artist, you might be on tour, so then maybe you miss your brother's birthday. Since that sacrifice has happened because you're trying to accomplish something, you then owe it to whoever that is, or that family member, whatever it is, to make sure you make the most of that time. Because if you can't make it to that birthday, you have to make sure that sacrifice just wasn't in vain. You got to make sure that you would kill it out on stage or something, because you've obviously sacrificed a lot to get to the point to where you are now. So that's where that motivation factor comes into it, where you're not just focused on yourself or what's in front of you. If you've sacrificed things to get to where you are, that is just fuel to the fire. And that's how I've always seen sacrifice. And I've always been real big on that if you make sacrifices to get to where you actually want to be, you got to make sure that those sacrifices are worth it. So you can't just be sitting there messing around, stuffing around, wasting your time because you've put sacrifices in to reach where you're trying to go. So you got to make good on that promise that you may have made to your mother or your brother or someone like that. So that's what I got out of that.
And I think also, like, on a personal level, it's you make a sacrifice for someone else, yeah, they're going to be more inclined to make a sacrifice for you later on. So in terms of the relationships you have with your family, with your friends, it's going to be much more accommodating, like in a respect for, you know, they're going to be more accommodating for you, you're going to be more accommodating for them. If someone's in a time of trouble, or if you're in a time of trouble and you need someone's help, but, you know, 3 years ago, you weren't willing to make a sacrifice for them, they're going to look back and say, well, you know, why am I going to make the sacrifice for you? So I think it's like that kind of swings and roundabouts kind of mindset, whereas, you know, it's backwards and forwards, it's a two-way street. You know, you give what you take what you give as well. So
Pretty good. Do you have any inspiration, Ollie?
Yeah. I'm more so in the boat as Jackson. Like I tend to be someone who's not really looking up to, I guess, conventional celebrities. There is, I guess, one person who I kind of do look up to a bit. He's a bit of a weird bloke, but Elon Musk. I won't pretend to know a lot about him. I bought his biography. I haven't read it yet, but he just, from what I know from a distance, and again, I don't know a lot about him, but he seems to have such a vision for what he wants for humanity and the future of humanity, but also his ability to think long term and create an action plan and carry that out. So whether that's what he's doing with Tesla or what he's trying to do with SpaceX, there's so much he's trying to do to progress humanity as a whole. And I think that mentality is so rare amongst, I guess, this elite where they could just keep that money for themselves. And no doubt Elon Musk is probably a very rich man, but there's also stories of him, you know, sleeping on the Tesla factory floors, or sleeping in his office, or, you know, he had to borrow money from his friends because he put all of his money that he had from, you know, selling PayPal or whatever to put back into Tesla when it was about to choke, or putting it into SpaceX when it was about to go bankrupt. And there's something so commendable about that. And that leads into, I guess, my part 2 of this answer, which is coming back to what Jackson was saying. It's a type of person, but more so a characteristic of people, and it's taking action. And to me, I think the most dangerous force in this world is apathy, more dangerous than ignorance, because ignorance can be cured quite easily. Ignorance is just not knowing something. So you can educate people on a topic, you can share information, you can do all that, and that process can cure ignorance. But apathy is so destructive, because apathy is inaction despite knowing something. So you can know what you're doing is bad for you. You can know what you're doing is bad for the environment, it's bad for the earth, it's just bad for society. And then so many of us, myself included, everybody, we all succumb to apathy to some extent. We'll know that this is a moment of weakness, or we're doing something just because it's convenient, and we'll ignore hard truths just because they're inconvenient, and we'll let apathy take control. But say if you take Elon Musk, for example, he's not showing apathy because he's very conscious of these universal problems, not just affecting any one person or any one country, but the whole world, humanity as a whole. He's addressing these actions, and he's putting his money where his mouth is. He's saying, all right, well, I'm willing to put everything into my dream to make it happen, because I'm fully aware that if I'm just having these thoughts, if I'm having these dreams and I'm not pursuing them, or if I'm aware of problems and I'm not trying to solve them, then, you know, you're just a fraud. You're just, you know, you're just wasting that potential. And my favorite type of person in this world is just not even like this. Let's ignore Elon Musk for a second. Just you're a regular person that you meet on the street, or just someone you meet in class, or someone you meet in a workplace, and you talk to them, and it's something what you guys were saying too. They're sacrificing in some way for their beliefs. And it doesn't matter if you personally agree with those beliefs, but just the ability to give parts of yourself into, I guess, something that you believe in, or, you know, just holding a belief and actually acting on it. It's so impressive to me, because it's so easy to just it's called cognitive dissonance. So cognitive dissonance basically is holding one belief but acting in another way. You see it very commonly in people who smoke, because smokers know very well that it's bad for them and that it will cause cancer and it'll cause a whole bunch of health problems, but they might not act on it in terms of their behavior. They'll still smoke. And there's just like a level of mental gymnastics that occurs. It's somehow convincing yourself that maybe you're an exception or maybe this won't affect you. And it's this thing that everybody does. You might not smoke, but you might be contributing to societal problems in another way. And this has been a very long answer, and I'll start talking in a minute. But this is just like huge for me. It's just, I have so much love in my heart for people who will just take action on what they believe in and follow through on it. Because I think that's just such a rare trait to have, but such an impressive and an important trait to have.
Yeah. I have 100 things to say. I'll remember what you were just talking about, but going back to what you talked about at the very start about, and you mentioned it, Jackson, as well, not really having really an inspiration for someone in the limelight or like the celebrity nature. I think there's a real big problem with our society where a lot of people see those celebrities and they idolize them so much and they want to be them.
Yeah.
And we previously covered it at our last podcast about comparing yourselves to other people and all of that. And I think, that celebrity nature, people look up to, these celebrities and how it's just all the highlights. It's none of the bad, and it's all just kind of distorted and manipulated. And that's part of what the media does as well. So everything's shown in a certain type of frame, and even like elections or anything like that, whatever the media company, whoever the owners are, like everything's always just structured a certain way and manipulated. And celebrity culture, like that's the nature of it as well. It's not all realistic. A lot of it is a false reality that feed into society as a whole. So I think a real big one there is being aware of that, because you can idolize someone like Elon Musk who does have a following and is regarded as like a celebrity, so to speak, but there's just that fine line between, do you idolize the man or woman and what they actually stand for and who they are as individuals, or are you idolizing them just for the fact that they're popular, they're out there, they're making music, they have millions and millions of followers and they're influential in that way? Like, do they influence others, or are they just out there for themselves and they have that influence on everyone else?
Yeah, I find that in terms of that celebrity kind of inspiration, I think a lot of people, they don't look at a celebrity and say you really influence a wide range of people. You influence the community that I live in or that I'm a part of. They literally look at it and say, "Oh, you're a successful person. You got a lot of money. I want to be like you." And because and again, like, as you were saying from our last podcast, it's that materialistic value of people and the belief of being successful is what gives people inspiration. And I think that it's important to look at the value that people are giving to other people as opposed to the value they hold, like monetarily. So
that's pretty good. It's just like going back to what I was saying like earlier on. It's like how I was saying, like, you draw motivation from that. It's like you can, like, I agree with you guys. It's like you're idolizing someone in terms of like the monetary value. That's not the good kind of side to me, in my opinion. But if you can look up to how someone has their story, they're behind it, but you can draw motivation from that to kind of like be like, all right, well, I want to go in my direction. I want to go do my thing in life, but I can see how someone has done it in such a different way that I'm going to pull and pick a couple things that will give me some motivation to kind of keep on my journey. It's like, if you idolize someone just because they're rich, it's like, you're not going to see how they've come up. You're not going to see how they've done it. You're just going to, and if you're like, oh, I want to be rich just like this person, you're not really going to be like, oh, well, I'm going to do this and I'm going to somehow get rich, because you don't have a direction if you just want to be like this person. You just got to pull the motivation from someone who's already done it, who's come up with something, for you to kind of be like, well, if someone else can do it, I can do it. This is how they've done it. I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to do it my way, because that's the only way I'm going to succeed in life, because you're in control of your own life at the end of the day.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Like not going down the lines of you can't have an inspirational person that's rich. Like, obviously they've done something to get there. Mm-hmm. And as you said, it's that process that you're probably inspired by, is the process or the type of person they are, as opposed to what they're valued at.
And then another one that I picked up from that, so there was that celebrity one, but with what you were talking about, Ali, that you have so much love for individuals who sacrifice for others, or even can take the lens off their own vision and see that it's not just me in this world. It's not even just my immediate family. It's not even my community. Like there's worldwide issues right now that could be addressed, and people could be doing something about it, but so many people just choose to ignore it. So that that quote that I'll paraphrase, where it's not that like that kind of true evil is when good people stand by and don't actually do anything.
Yeah.
So and that's a big issue with our world today and how we run as a society. But to idolize someone but focus in on their actual core values and their core beliefs and what they stand for. And like you were saying, it's not even the fact that you don't have to agree with their views and values, but there is so much honor in someone who will stand by their views, and they won't crumble to society or social pressure or anything like that if they have an actual core view that they're willing to live, breathe and die by. Like that is an inspiration in itself, and you don't have to agree with the view necessarily, but that strength and courage of just living and breathing by it, there's so much value in that as well. And if you can honor that and you can see it and you can draw inspiration from that, and that's what a lot of people today, I believe, should actually be doing with their idols. It's not about the money, it's about what did they have to achieve, sacrifice and go through to actually get to that final stage in their life, and whatever that is, draw from that, because that's the character that has defined them throughout this entire journey that they've been on.
Yeah, and I actually want to ask you guys a question, because I've been thinking about this a lot, and I don't know if there is like a clear answer to it, but there's this idea, I think it's called like moral absolutism. So I see it in my friends, I see it in my family, and I see it in society in general, and the people around me, where there's this idea that if someone, they might be a celebrity, or they might be a political figure, or they might be just someone who does have a certain audience, and they might do something bad, or they might have disagreeable aspects of their personality, and they also have done good things, and they also have added value. So it's like a mix. It's not clear whether or not they're like a wholly good person or a wholly bad person. But I feel like there's such a tendency where there is any bit of negativity in someone to stamp them out and just write them out completely as just a bad person. So say if we bring that to Elon Musk again, Elon Musk is a weird dude, like a very weird dude. And if you look at his Twitter posts, he's always just abusing people and just being super strange. And people will take that and say, all right, well, Elon Musk is a bad bloke. He doesn't deserve the fame he has. He's a total waste. And I don't understand that mentality, because yes, that's super weird, but can we not compartmentalize aspects of someone's identity and say, okay, that's weird, but there's still so much value he's bringing? Because say Martin Luther King, a civil rights activist, huge player in history and the world we live in today. He cheated on his wife a lot. And people don't look at a person like him, because he had such an important role to play in the narrative of like humanity.
Albert Einstein, who was insane.
Yeah. And even say, this is like pretty controversial, but I think Kanye West is a pretty good artist. Like I don't have a problem with him. I think his art is meaningful and has a lot of value to give to a lot of people. But people would look at someone like Kanye West and say, oh, well, he says all these weird things and he does all these weird things. So therefore Kanye West, regardless of whether he's an artist, regardless of whether he's trying to bring beauty or something into the world, he's just a waste. He's just bad. And I want to know your opinion on, well, what is the answer? Like, should we have a bigger focus on not just labeling people as wholly good or wholly evil, and trying to see the complex nature of humanity that's within us all? Because it's a very like fairy tale notion, right? We as humans, we want things to be very simple. We want there to be a good force and an evil force, and we want it to be very clear cut. We don't like the messy in between. But the reality is we're all that messy in between. Like in me there's evil, in you there's evil, but there's also good in all of us, and it's all about like towing the line and trying to be the best version you can be. But I think it's destructive when we look at these celebrities and say, oh, they did this one bad thing, or they're acting up a bit, so they're just bad. But we don't do that to each other. So how do we frame this and find idolization or find heroes amongst normal flawed people?
I think as is like society these days is like social media and all that, it's so easy to push someone down, and it's so like news gets around, like every time there's like bad news, it like gets publicized everywhere. Like let's say like Kanye, right? He says something controversial, that gets publicized everywhere, throughout Instagram, throughout YouTube and all that. So the viewers that see it, they just see the bad. They don't see the good that he's done. They don't see the art of like the good music that he's put out. They only see the bad side to it. And as humans, if you see like I don't for some reason I think that like when people see someone succeeding, they just want to drag him down. So then as soon as the negative like news comes out, let's say like Elon Musk has been in controversial news as well, like everyone's like, oh, let me sell my like Tesla stocks, let me sell that, like I'm just done, like, and then people just hate. Like I think it's so easy to hate, but it's so easy to it's so hard to praise someone, right? Like it's weird because in my like head, like I just have love to show. Like I don't really hate anyone anymore. Like if you go back a couple years when like life was a really mess for me, like then yeah, I had really negative sides to the world. But like now these days, it's like it doesn't matter if someone's done bad in their like life. Like you can change your life no matter what. Like this, but people always look at the bad part. Like people will be like, oh, you did this, you did that, and it's like they won't look at the good that you've done for the world, because it's so easy to hate on someone to make them feel better.
Yeah. I think just touching on that, with you saying it's so hard to praise people these days, I think because of this, this whole topic we're talking about, people are defining people as absolutely, good, absolutely bad. And it's like, well, are other people going to think that I'm bad if I praise this person? And vice versa as well. So it's so hard to praise someone, but then also if there's someone who is so well liked, there is someone who is succeeding well and everyone likes them, it's so hard to put a bad stamp on them, because then it's that whole social aspect of being accepted. So then that's almost comparing yourselves to others, what your social views are, all this kind of stuff, and it's. In terms of putting a good or a bad stamp on people, I totally disagree on doing that. I think that, someone might, you don't know what people are going through. Someone might be going through hardships, they might have lost a family member. They might have, dropped out of school. They might have lost their job. I don't know. But like, if you've been going your whole life trying to do the best by everyone you can, and then at some stage, one thing slips up, you shouldn't be just, badly stamped for that, like just push to the side, see you later. I think that if you're able to acknowledge you've done something wrong and then rectify it or fix it or make amends with people, then you shouldn't be shunned at all. If you're it's really the impression you give on other people, but it's also the perspective that other people have on you as well. There's so much diversity in what people can see as to what you can put out. Sorry, excuse me. But yeah, so much diversity from how people see as to what you perceive yourself as. It's almost impossible to label someone as good and bad. Like it's basically out of the question, but still we do it today. Like it's ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, it's a good question, Eileen. I don't think I can answer it, but just to bring it to a bit more of a personal level to view it as, and like, because with what you were saying, Hendry, it's so easy for the media to just pick apart when someone does something wrong. Mm-hmm. Like, Elon Musk has been in the firing squad a bit recently as well. So it's like, the media can do it, and that's what the media has always been like. So if I move away from that a bit and I go down to a bit more of a personal level from my perspective to it all. So like with the whole, good, bad, in between type messy scenario, like I don't have an answer, so I'm just going to rant on a bit of a personal scenario. But like, so for me, I always heavily focused on like the negative side to like who I was, and like I've always like done it pretty much. It's only really been this last year or so where like I've tried to compare the two and find the middle ground. But even just whether it was school, even at work, I'm I guess looked at and perceived by a lot of the staff as like the big bad wolf. Like, so that's just like, it's the role that I play a bit. And there's probably some reasons why like I play those roles throughout either school or even work, because there's some value in it, especially in like leadership roles. Like sometimes like you have to be a good cop, bad cop. Like sometimes that's just the way like society works a bit. But I struggled a lot like seeing like that good side to it all. And whether it was school or work. But what I realized this year to actually try to get to that next level or be the person that you're trying to be, it's about recognizing the good and the bad and coming to terms with both parts to it all. Because although I've focused heavily on the negative side to it, there's a lot of people on that other side of the spectrum as well that just think everything they do is the right thing. And no matter how bad, no matter what they do to someone, no matter how bad it is, they can't actually even perceive it as that, because they just think they are just, all that. They think they're perfect, everything they do is the right move. Everyone else is wrong and they're not. And I think that's equally destructive than focusing on just the bad and thinking no matter what you do, you either hurt people or you do bad things. I think it's just as bad focusing on thinking you just do everything right. And I've noticed that with a lot of people, and I've bumped heads with a lot of people like that, because for one, I'm probably on the other side of the spectrum and they're not. And like I probably perceive a lot of things that I do as being negative or bad. But you speak to someone and they could cheat on their partner or do something like that, and there's always an excuse, there's always some other reason for it, and they just can't even recognize that what they're doing to their friends, their family, to society as a whole is just negative. They just think it's correct. And I think that's real toxic, and of course it's toxic of being the other end. But one thing that I've definitely done is just focus on both parts to it all and just be content with both parts. I didn't just ignore it and go, oh well, nah, Luke, all good. Things that you may have done, like they were justified. I didn't say that. I go, there's good, there is bad, there's that middle ground, and just really focusing in on that. And you only can be the person you're meant to be when you actually recognize it and understand that both hold power and both are just equal. It's really that whole yin and yang type cycle. You do have bad parts to yourself, and you also have good parts. And the true power of oneself only comes into factor when you understand that it's both light and dark, good and bad. And if you can just come to terms with that, and come to terms with that's just who you are as a person, that's just how people are, then it makes it a lot easier to just being able to recognize those and make probably morally correct decisions a lot more than just thinking you're all good or you're all bad. But
I don't think you can classify someone as a good person or a bad person. I think the amount of complexity in someone's life, you just can't do it. Honestly, there's no way of defining someone purely good, purely bad. I honestly, from my perspective, you just can't do it.
But then, so I will challenge you on that then. So, but there are people throughout history who have done, complete heinous or just destructive things throughout like their entire life. So how would you then classify those people, if you could?
Well, I mean, so as an example, so you would say, all right, so someone's grown up, and as they've gotten older, they've murdering, assaults, being criminals. Is that like the type of people you're talking about?
Well, there's people even higher above that who their entire you got corporations. Probably more nowadays. It's not like we have people running around starting wars as much as maybe back in the day, but corporations in general, like if you take those as an entity who they don't care about, a lot of them just don't care about people. Like it's all about money and murder runs the world and money runs the world. So how would you describe those? And I'm just asking to challenge it. But
well, I mean, it's a pretty tough position to sit in. It's if you get people that day by day are doing these things and they know full well they're doing them. That's almost you could be almost categorized into what you were saying before, where they're doing what they're doing and they don't think it's wrong. So like you could be sitting in that light, you could be sitting there, and you could be someone that sits there and just loves to manipulate people, loves to be at the head of an organization that just runs on murders, as you were saying, or things like that. For someone doing that, well, that in terms of knowing them on a personal level, that might be their business, or they might be in that business. When they go home, they could be a completely different person. So to their family, they could be a loving father or a loving mother. So you could look at it kind of both ways, but without knowing them, the individual on a personal level, it's very hard to kind of differentiate. But I would be putting that, someone doing that, I'd be saying more towards you're a shit bloke, basically. It's the things behind the scenes, as we've been talking about this whole podcast, is if you don't know someone's full life details or full life story, they might have been brought up in a very hostile situation, and that's triggered something in them, and now they have no idea what they're doing is wrong, and they're just going out and doing it, and that's what it is. So it's more so knowing someone on a personal level, and I think even in that situation, if you don't know someone's life story, it's very hard to say you are just a bad person.
To just make a judgment and put it in the box.
I have thought about this quite a bit. So I do have a bit of an answer ready for it. And you touched on it towards the end there. If you say we're taking someone who does seem quite at the extreme, and this is, I guess, my personal view on free will as a concept entirely, but I'd say that, coming back to that, the age-old debate, where if it's like the environment that influences you, or is it your genes, is it how you're born? And if you take those two things into consideration, you can't control your genes. You can't control the body with which you come into this world with, and you can't control the certain dispositions that you might have. And you can't control your environment, because your environment starts acting on you before you get a chance to act on it. Because when you're a baby, your mum's tending to you, your dad's tending to you, the world is tending to you before you have a chance to change your environment. So both of these things are influencing you before you ever get a chance to have a say, really. And so basically, fundamentally, and there's people who disagree with this line of thought, but to me it's hard to find a valid counter argument. I do believe that who we are, we have very little free will about it. Like, we might construct these narratives that make it easier to understand who we are and give us a sense of identity. But as a whole, I think, yes, you have the power to improve yourself, but who you come into this world as, and especially that process of being a child and growing up in this world, certain things influence you and make you who you are. And yes, there are people who have horrendous childhoods, who unspeakable experiences in their youth, and it's like how they say a lot of sex offenders were abused sexually as children themselves. So there's these things that you can't really quantify properly if you just look at them in terms of what they're doing and as their actions. And then I guess my approach to this, and what I think is a good way to operate in this world in terms of the mindset that you hold, is that, and again, it's what you were saying, Luke, and something I've had to cultivate a skill on my own as well, because I'm quite like you in the sense that I've always been a diehard cynic. Like, I've always been the most pessimistic person in the room. I've always looked at myself and always seen the worst of myself. And it's interesting when you do that, because you can't really separate that mental process when it's between you and someone else, because it just becomes the way you judge. So judgment as a whole, whether it's you or another person, it's the same process. So what I noticed, and I was so miserable during this time because I was hating on myself a lot, but that mindset would carry on to how I perceived the world and how I perceived other people. So I'd look at my friends, I'd just see the worst in them, and I'd, like, the smallest little things, I'd just say, I wouldn't say this to them, but I'd think of them as, you're so flawed, you're so broken. And I look at the world and I see the world and I'd be like, everything is just so flawed. But the real reason behind all of that is because I was approaching myself with that lens. So the moment I tried to see light in myself and cultivate that positivity, then that changed the way I perceived the world too. Because then I saw other people around me, and I'd look at the person who'd cut me off in traffic, or the person who'd bump into me on the escalator coming out of the train station, and I wouldn't look at them and be like, wow, you are such an inconvenience upon this planet. I'd be, no, you're in a rush, you're having a bad day, it's fine, because there's light in you too, and I see that. And it's funny enough, this comes back to Martin Luther King. There's something he said that stuck with me, and he said that hate cannot drive out hate, only love can do that. And I think it's so true, because if you do look at these idols, or if you do look at these people, whether that's yourself or those around you, and you approach it with this mentality of hatred, then you are just feeding that evil that already exists. If you're looking at someone who's having a bad day, and you categorize them as this evil person, and you act accordingly, and you act bitter towards them too, you're just fueling that fire. But the moment you step back and try to approach someone with love, even if they don't on paper deserve your love, someone you've never met, someone who cuts you off, someone who just does something bad, and you look at them and you say, I love you, I understand what's happened, you've done a bad thing, but I'm not going to judge you for it, I'm not going to attack you with hatred, I'm going to try to understand and make your life better. Because again, you link it back to that childhood stuff. Like, you don't know why. Maybe that person's never had love in their whole entire life, and they've only ever been judged. And can you really blame that person for becoming the person they did become? And then it's up to us as individuals to break that negative cycle of evil and be the force of good, or that force of positivity that can break that up. And maybe, over time, if people did adopt this mentality, there would be less negativity, less hatred, and you could, approach things with a positive lens.
It's really interesting, yeah. Like I definitely do agree, like with what you're saying. Like as a child, you're shaped to what's around you, and it's so true, because at such a young age, you like, I don't know if you guys remember, like when you guys were young, you guys would be like looking up to like your older cousins, like like that shapes who you are, and like how you were saying how you were seeing like the negative limelight of everyone because you were seeing the negative in yourself. It's good that you were able to see that, because not many people are able to realize that, hey, wait, I'm the negative one in this, that I'm the reason why I see people as negative and all that. And I used to do that as well. Like I used to be like, oh, well, I'm so shit, I can't do this, I can't do that. Like, but the moment you change yourself, it's the moment everything becomes different in the world. You see things differently, and yeah, like I don't have an answer to your question like from earlier on, and we're all just rambling about it in my opinion.
Yeah.
But it's good to kind of like get this discussion now, because hate breeds hate, like what you're saying. But like love is literally the way to go. Like you spreading the positivity is the way to go. And I'm so like I still don't always do good things in life still. But like these days I'll be like, well, I'll try and make someone's day. Like if I speak to someone for the day, I'll try and make him happy, try and give him a smile, because you don't know what everyone's going through at the end of the day. And it's crazy that like a lot of people don't realize that. Like a lot of people will still be like, oh, I'm just gonna do my own thing, like screw what everyone is, and like kind of be negative and all that. But like it's weird to see how much like you saying, or you smiling back at someone, or you saying like have a good day or something, like changes like their reaction, like changes their face. Like let's say you go to a store and like you go buy some stuff and you like go to the cash register, the person serves you. If you just have like that nice little like minute talk or something, and like that sometimes makes someone's day. Like if someone's going through things, like you've given that little bit of positivity, they're gonna like their mindset's gonna change for the day, and they're gonna spread it. And like it just becomes like a chain reaction of like spreading love. If you spread love,
it's insane you say that, because if you were to do that, you go, you're the shop assistant, and you have a bit of a conversation and give them a bit of positivity. It's like anytime you do that, they'll be so surprised, because it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Like in society, it just never happens anymore. Like even just they'll ask you how your day is, and most people just say, yeah, it's good.
Mm-hmm.
No one will even like make the effort to say, yeah, mine's going well, how's yours? And just that is so rare these days. And I think, yeah, that positivity, if it was just a general thing that everyone had on their minds, just a bit of positivity each day, it'd make everyone else feel so much better about themselves, so much better about we were talking about before, humanity, and all these wars, attacks, all this. Honestly, I think those types of things, they could be somewhat of like avoided, just if majority of the planet was to turn around and say, you know what, I'm not going to judge you. Have a good day.
Thanks for tuning in to the Prometheus Podcast, where we aim to bring the fire back to the people.